Best builds inside the first Descendant typically did not use shield at all because it was pretty bad. You would think that the community was full of Captain America villains, but the way that they tried to avoid the shield. So on the field, we actually got a patch that ended up helping us learn our shapes. You know, that's always helpful. And we got a buff to Overwhelming Shield. From looking up old images, I saw that it was 2% before, 2% of max HP, and now we get 26.8% of max HP using Overwhelming Shield. So it was a big boost, which means that the shield that we had inside of our last video of 8K bumps up to a big boy shield of about 30K. Now, you might have a little bit too much dip on your chip with this amount of shield. There's some changes that you end up making which will actually make you tankier than this, or end up making you deal more damage. Here we have the setup. Overwhelming Shield is the start of the shield this thing that got buffed, which is going to allow us to be super bulky. Now that we are able to use our HP to increase our shield, we run Stem Accelerant, HP Conversion, Increase Shield, as well as Increase HP. Here we are limit testing against Gluttony. So here we get with the melee. Doesn't hit us with too much. We're able to regen that back pretty easily. You have to know what damage the hits do, so that way you can tank through it and shoot with sharp precision shots, so you get as much damage as possible. His little cannon that he shoots out, if you're on a slope or you have something right behind you, can hit you for like 20k. So you do have to be mindful. And if you do go down without shield, you do not regen shield, you regen HP. Guess how much HP we have? 1. So you're not going to be in a great spot if you go down, but with 27,000 shield or even like 20k shield, you should feel more than comfortable. For other mod slots, we have the skill cooldown from MP Conversion. Noble Figure is going to give us some more skill cooldown, and then Maximize Conservation will give us that skill cost reduction. This skill power modifier, negative 20%, actually can have a benefit, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Multi-talented is going to allow us to unlock 20% cooldown reduction if we use a active dimension skill. Let's go ahead and talk about these skills that we're using. To keep things simple, as we get into the rotations, I'm going to refer to the skills as their number in order. So Supply Firearm Enhancer is going to be 1, Explosive Drone is going to be 2, Enhanced Combat Suit 3, and Perfect Support, of course, is going to be 4. With the Supply Firearm Enhancer Trancendant mod, we are able to change our first ability to give us a weak point damage increase as well as a firearm critical hit rate increase. This also works for teammates. Now, you will often find that they will run past it because they have no idea what's going on. A flat 29% critical hit rate increase would be fantastic, but it actually works even better than that. You can see that we're at 30% critical hit rate, and due to the way that this interacts with our crit hit rate increases, this number goes up to 75%. So, you know, a whole 16% higher than what we would think we would get. When you're shooting your gun, you have the buff as long as you do not reload. Once you reload, you have to reapply this buff. Second ability is the Explosive Drone. This is going to provide us with a way to do a little bit of AoE inside of his kit. Most importantly, it is a dimension skill, and utilizing this with the multi-talented, which we have right here, is going to give us that 20% cooldown reduction for the cheapest MP cost possible. Our third ability, and really the start of the show, is the Enhanced Combat Suit. Now, when you activate this initially, you're going to get that 25% shield recovery, and then for each interval of a second, you're going to get back an additional 6%. In this setup right here, we have that 8% duration, and there's also a dimension skill, so we're going to get multi-talented. Here we have our 27,000 shield, and we'll go ahead and get that initial 25%. And we're getting back from pressing the button immediately. 6,750 shield that we're getting back. Now let's find these 6% ticks. That gives us 1620. Multiply that by 8 because we get 8 ticks over those 8 seconds. Then we add this to our 6750. So when we press our third ability one time, we are getting back 20,000 shield. Our fourth ability here, Perfect Support, is going to provide infinite ammo for everyone, provide a firearm attack increase as well as a critical hit rate increase, and reload time modifier. This does have a range to it, so if somebody is outside your range, they will not get the drone on their shoulder. That's going to provide them with these buffs. This build is a little bit more selfish than the previous build where we had a ton of range so that we could reach everybody. If you're playing in close enough vicinity to the boss, you'll be able to provide this to your teammates. If someone's holding on to the Colossus waiting for a break, your fourth ability can end up targeting that weak spot and ultimately breaking it, denying the knockdown, which would be a huge DPS loss. So again, the timing for when to use your fourth ability is important because you want to allow somebody to hug the boss as much as they want to and get that little bit of extra, love and affection. So this setup actually has the perfect loop, which is going to allow you to keep up your buffs indefinitely, as well as shoot off every shot of your Enduring Legacy. What you want to go ahead and do is either press your second ability or your third ability, because these are both dimension skills, and then you can go ahead and put down your pylon or your first ability, and then activate your fourth ability. So it's going to look something a little like this.
Powering shield at light speed. Here comes a big one.
And you get a clean loop. Now this combo you typically start in the middle of a reload, so typically your reload animation is a pretty decent amount of time. But you can cancel this by using an ability or rolling. So the mag go in, roll. That's how you deal with the ability. And so you cut into your reload time, which is going to end up giving you some more DPS, and then you get passively that dimension buff, which is going to either give you back shield or allow you to throw out your missile. So this animation is a bit quicker. For your reactor, you do need that skill cooldown, so that way you're able to get that very clean loop. Skill effect range is cool because it ends up helping out your fourth ability, and then you can go with skill cost reduction or something else that gives you a little bit of value. Skill cooldown is the biggest one here. You do not need duration for this variation. And for our external components, we're just rocking things that give us the most HP. So HP from this as well as the substat are going to be the most important roles you can get for the auxiliary power. The MP recovery out of combat is really not needed, and then fire resistance doesn't really matter either. Molten Fortress nor Pyro really hurt you. You have too much bulk. Now you got Frozen Heart Sensor. You can run this or the Volcanic Sensor. Both of these do work in this slot. MP recovery in combat and max MP is going to allow you to get a constant clean flow of combat. If you had to pick between one of these two, I would go with the MP recovery in combat, and then that combined with chill resistance is going to put you in a good spot versus Gluttony. Your annihilation memory, max HP, defense, as well as the MP recovery modifier is going to be solid. Electricity resistance should be good maybe later on in the game, but once again, it's a situation where it doesn't really matter right now. And then we have the Slayer Processor, which is going to give that max HP as well as that max shield. And then Toxic Resistance is going to be the thing that you want for that. Open up your map, hit the difficulty level rewards, and then we're going to scroll down to the bottom. And then we look at Auxiliary Power. And now this whole area here are going to be able to go ahead and drop you the Auxiliary Power. I ended up doing the Broadband Fleet Beacon quest, which let me get the drop in only a few runs. It's pretty easy to get. If you hit shot focus, you'll go in and swap out that skill extension and put on shot focus there. You can also remove that slot and put on some type of resistance. If you want to be ultra mega incredibly tanky for whatever reason, you can do that. But with shot focus, you have a couple of different options you can play around with, because now we need some more duration, so that way some more of those shots get that added damage. One option they can go ahead and do, swap out your reactor and put on one that has skill duration up and cooldown. Here you can swap around your sensor to the annihilation one. So it puts you at 23,000, gives you additional 5.7% skill duration. And you can swap out Stim Accelerant for Battle Stamina. So you're sitting at 19k, which is still very solid, but it is not nearly 27,000 by any means. So swapping this back over to this will give you pretty much an additional 2k. Main gun is the Enduring Legacy. These are the rolls that we have on it. And we have aiming. Accuracy loss is pretty fake because as you hold down the trigger, the reticle gets bigger. So if you went with weak point sight, you're only going to get that advantage for like the first few seconds of shooting. So aiming is better here. And then this does better against the Colossus, that you are able to hit those weak points on a consistent basis. Otherwise, you can run with edging shot instead of aiming. Riggs is a good gun as well. Very good bossing weapon. You can out RNG the Enduring Legacy sometimes with this, but it is less consistent, and the overall flow of combat feels better with the Enduring Legacy. Alright, let's talk about this tamer right here. So it's not in here for no reason. You can use this inside a build, but you do not need it. So the tamer, we have weapon change speed on here, along with weapon weight, more weapon weight, which is just change speed. This gives defense as well. And then we have that max general rounds with that movement speed minus 20. Now what this does, if you combine that with the inversion reinforcement, more particularly the pacemaker, once you get below 300 speed, you are able to get that 25% skill cost reduction. Now this is great. Do you need it for the setup? No. Do you need it for some other setups? Potentially. So you can throw this on whatever Descendant and get those benefits. Other inversion reinforcements that are good are going to be the selective neural stimulation for that mana, and then of course that high density chill particle membrane, really just for gluttony. And then we have the composite over here, so more of that good old resistance. But you want to see, you can swap bad fast too. It's not bad at all.
Impressive, huh?
If you do decide to use the tamer to unlock the carpal tunnel build, you can now get rid of maximized conservation. So all those options that we talked about earlier, such as increasing your duration with the skill extension or maximized duration, or using those different resistances, are available now because this whole slot is free. Enzo actually has one of the better mobbing setups inside the game because it is extremely budget friendly. You don't have to put anything inside of the build at all. All you really need is the Guardian R4. Now you see here, we're running through these mobs, we're popping them, we're blowing them up. This is fantastic because we're getting infinite ammo from our fourth ability, and due to us having to reload after every shot, our reload is actually our fire rate. To wrap this bad boy up, we got Supply Firearm Enhancer. You get this from opening up one of those purple vaults. Each one of these you can get from a purple vault. They drop in different locations, and they are a little bit interesting to get. Sometimes RNG is not in your favor, but in order to increase your RNG, make sure you have on the auxiliary power that has max module drop rate. That way you have a little bit of a better chance. Quick little overview so that way you can see what these do. We were talking about Supply Firearm Enhancer. That's pretty much what the whole video was. Focus Fire is cool because we throw this bad boy on. You get a drone, and the duration you can increase pretty dramatically by just critting. And then you also get some more explosive drones they can throw out. So it's decent, nothing too crazy. You can build it out with some extra duration and whatnot. We're going to talk about reinforced frontline. So this works out kind of interesting. We have this on. Instead of you being able to regenerate your shield, you end up throwing down a ring. And this ring you can scale with extra range, which we'll go ahead and do real quick. This ends up working well with Passionate Sponsor, but really it's for guns that already have enough crit chance. So I was playing around with the Executor shotgun with this setup. It was working out decent, but there's still some tweaks that I want to go ahead and make. And I think Wave of Light with Passionate Sponsor in this can actually be great because it has that 100% crit rate already. So what you do is spam this. You get this big circle that if somebody's inside of it, they end up getting the bonus. And if they walk in and out of here, you get Passionate Sponsor stacks. But the cooldown's so low that you can just spam it and get your stacks up like that by just proccing it on your allies. And the circle's a pretty decent size too. And last but actually not least, we have Supply Tactical Armor. As you can see here, we get some good old damage reduction and some movement speed increase. So this works out well for a mobbing setup when you just run around with the launcher. Helps everybody move faster, and you just run through and get a nice little blitz going. Actually ends up increasing the damage of your buddies as well because they end up proccing their AoE faster. So I like this more for running through than Focus Fire. And that's going to be all for me for today. That is the Enzo build with shield. It works out super duper well. If you want something that's a little bit more support heavy, we got the other video which still works well. Still beat Gluttony, can still beat all the contents at the game. If you guys have any questions about anything or any comments, go ahead and let me know below. Of course, I'll look through those and try to answer whatever questions that are available. And that's it for your boy.